Hello, everyone, and welcome to the August 2025 FMDiSC meeting. I'm Bob Shockey, and I'm your host for today's meeting. We don't always have a consistent theme for our meetings. Tend to be kind of a grab bag, depending on who's available to speak and so forth that month. But I think today's theme could be called Strange New Worlds. Today's two main presenters are taking FileMaker into really intriguing new realms. So I think you're going to find this to be a really good one. So I'm gonna kind of back announce this like an old school DJ. So later after the break, we're gonna have Marcel Moré, who will show us how to build AI agents with cutting edge technology. Before that, we're gonna have the ever intrepid Chris Moyer, who will give us yet another installment of his tech news roundup, which has quickly become a fan favorite here at FMDiSC. And then, but to kick things off, we have Phillip Kemp with RapidStack, his UI builder that uses a web viewer to build hybrid UIs. Phil, I'm only going to say this once, but I'm disappointed that it's no longer called Web Zeppelin because I thought that was a brilliant name.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was planning on keeping that, but then I found the domain was taken from somebody else. It was also someone who does web design as well, so it wasn't so far off that I could, just get a different,
yeah,
domain at the end. So yeah, unfortunately,
well,
yeah, it sounds a bit more professional,
RapidStack is good. I like RapidStack too. All right, well, please share your screen and take it away.
Okay, 1 second.
Oh, by the way, everyone, mute your microphones during the presentations, please. And and one more thing. I'm sorry, Phil. One more thing. If you there's going to be announcements later after the breakout rooms. So if you have something that you want to share with the group, then that would be the time to do it. Just let me know ahead of time so I can call on you when that time comes around. Okay. Thanks. Go ahead, Phil.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, I'll just go through these few slides first of all, which it's similar to what I presented at Vienna Calling earlier this year. I did a small session on this, which got a few attendees, but what would be a good opportunity to go through what I demonstrated there here. So, okay, so RapidStack, it's a modern UI layer for FileMaker. It's basically a low-code UI builder, which you can build entire interfaces and host them within a single web viewer. So that's kind of the idea behind it. 1 sec. Okay, I'll do the obligatory about me section. So I'm Phil. I'm just sharing the early stages of my project. I've got over 10 years of FileMaker experience, which is not very long considering some of the veterans that are out there. But I've been doing it long enough to know and see a lot of crappy interfaces. So yeah, I live in Poland. So I'm originally from UK, you can probably tell by the accent. But yeah, I live in Poland near Gdynia. I run my own company. I do white label development for other developers and consultancies, as well as having my own clients. So that's just a bit about me. So what is RapidStack and what is the vision behind it? So basically, I was just frustrated with having to do FileMaker UI using the native objects that you can use with FileMaker layouts. I wanted a modern interface that was responsive, that had all the benefits of a web front end. A way also of simplifying layouts, because what I've found is that half the layouts that I've encountered, which in FileMaker, which were terrible UIs, were a victim of it being too flexible, essentially. You get, as we probably all had at some point or another, where there's been customers who have had multiple stakeholders driving in different directions. If you get someone who's like a weak developer, it could easily just say yes to everything and have a million buttons on several layouts. So it's easy for UI to get, you know, a bit messy in FileMaker. And yeah, there's a good saying that a horse designed by committee usually has about 7 legs. So that's usually the case. So I also wanted to make it simple for FileMaker developers to use. So that's one of the things about using web code and web components in FileMaker. You have to kind of usually know JavaScript, but I wanted to kind of eliminate that problem. And finally, I just wanted the users to have a better experience as well. So what is in RapidStack? Because yeah, it contains a couple of things. So there's a FileMaker file, which is the builder. So it's just a standard FileMaker file, which has dynamic record representations of layouts, essentially. And within those dynamic representations of the layouts, you can add components, and then you can configure the components. And then that components configuration is exported into a big long JSON string, which is essentially a blueprint. If you think of it like a blueprint for the application's UI, and then you push that into the web code, which lives within the web viewer, and then it generates and builds the application UI for you. So there's also a way to basically, if you don't want to use a full UI within a single web viewer, there's also the plans and features to use single components as well. So there's hybrid support, so you can interact with the web viewer, and if you just wanted to use, for example, a data table. So yeah, integration-wise, it works fine within FileMaker, and I've made it compatible with WebDirect as well. So okay, so just a few differences between, and then we'll get on to the fun stuff. So how it compares. So within traditional FileMaker layouts, you can have multiple layouts and manual navigation scripting, which often involves adding more structure just for the sake of UI, more structure in scripting. So there's data scripts which generally get polluted by UI features. So asking for certain things like custom dialogues or going to layouts. There's lots of UI-based script steps that you'll generally find in legacy FileMaker systems. It's time-consuming to design and update layouts for varying screen sizes. So if you've got something that's mobile and you've got a desktop version of an application you want to use it on mobile, generally you'd have to maintain 2 separate layouts to do that. And also it's quite dated, the visual aesthetic of FileMaker. So within RapidStack, what the idea is to have a single web viewer, as I've already mentioned, which has a single page application, which has hash routing, which basically means you can navigate within the actual web viewer itself. You don't need to go to different layouts in FileMaker or anything like that. Usually the data is only reading and writing, so it's kind of returning to almost like a separation model again, but within a single file. So your data scripts just become data for data again, rather than UI. It's responsive web design, so if you could have just one layout for mobile and for desktop or tablet. And yeah, it's just based on Material Design Framework. So yeah, it's quite modern looking and familiar. So the benefits for developers, this is going to be in the future, obviously, but non-technical staff can contribute to UI development. You can reduce the development time in the long run. It's got a consistent design language, which kind of it's a hidden cost saver with training, because I think it's like material design is on like 70% of the world's phones, so users are pretty used to that kind of design system. And also, just there's loads of different libraries within JavaScript, as we all know, that can do many different things. So there's quite a lot of new possibilities for features and functions within the application itself. So just a quick disclaimer before we get going. It's the usual nonsense of if it breaks, it was meant to do that. It's only a beta version at the moment. It's not fully functional. It's still in progress. I don't have the luxury really of spending quite a lot of my own time doing it. So yeah, I just do it within my spare time at the moment. So yeah. Okay, so there's actually a playlist here, but we'll do it live. So everyone can see okay on the screen, but it's not too small for anybody, no? Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, cool. So you can download this for free if you just go to rapidstack.app. It'll just forward you to the GitHub page. And essentially, you've got a zip file which you can download. So this is the actual builder, and the builder contains the web code as well. But I'll go through that in a sec. But it's got all the information here if you want to read it in your own time after this talk. But this is the where is it? The FileMaker file, which is in the zip file. So we just log in as you would any other. This is totally open as well, the file, so you can edit this if you want. But yeah, essentially what you get is the builder. So first of all, you can see we've got several different sections for the application, and there's different things that you can edit, all the different config. So I guess we'll start with each section here just to give you a brief overview, and then we'll dive into the individual sections a bit more and show you what they do. So first of all, within this file, just to show you, there is a contact table, and that's essentially just got nearly 1,000 records in, just to demonstrate, rather than having to pull up another file. I've just kept some test records within here to demonstrate, but just so you know where everything is coming from. Right, so here we have just the general settings. So there's two different app modes that you can set here. So you can have a single page application, which is a big fully fledged application with multiple pages and multiple components on those pages, or you can choose a single component application. So that's just if you wanted to pick out a particular component, like a data table, just to use on its own in an existing FileMaker solution. I'll demonstrate both of these later. You've got some basic information here about the app and some configuration options here. We've got the theming, so you can choose different colors and a primary and secondary font to use. These are all embedded fonts as well now, so they're not hosted. You don't have to rely on CDN. It's just literally base64 directly into the web code. We've got pages, which are representations of all the pages in the system. We've got structure, so this is a representation of the tables and fields within the target database that you're going to implement this into. So as you can see here, we've just got that contact table that I showed earlier. Components, so these are individual web components which can be assigned to the pages. And here we've got the web code. So this is actually the engine of what runs the actual generates the UI. So you would implement this into your database by just copying that code, essentially. So also below here, you've got the big config JSON. So this is what I mentioned earlier, almost like the blueprint. So essentially all these changes that you're making here is spits out into one big, huge JSON object. And then you feed that into this code within the web viewer, and it loads the application. So I'll just show you here now. If I click open window, essentially what this does is loads the code into a web viewer, and then it loads the JSON into there. So I'll just open that now. So you can see here, this is just a web viewer. If I go into this view, so I've got a little custom function here, which basically tells the code what the web viewer name is that we're hosting it in, the script name for all the interactions that occur from it, the function callback name for putting data back into the web viewer. So it's just the JavaScript function that we're targeting when we're doing that. A timeout message for if a data call is timed out, a timeout limit, so it's based in seconds. So if you're calling data and it times out, it will do that in 60 seconds. And these are just basically developer options, so you don't need to worry about these at the moment. So I'll just put my script debugger on here just to show you when we browse here, it loads that interaction script that I just showed you in there. And it passes through various actions for the interaction script. So if you think about the interaction script, it's essentially almost like a script that routes you to different subscripts. But in this demo file, it's just a single script because it's all very simple, just for the sake of the demo. So in this particular case, we've got action, which is initialization. So it's just grabbing the JSON config and firing it back into the web viewer. You can see there, it's just loaded the web viewer here. And we've got, you can see here, it's fully responsive. It's got different sections in based on the pages that we've got in there, but we'll go through that shortly. I'll just close this. So just to show you some of the changes that you can make currently, some of the config options. So show I'll just go through each of these and show you the differences. So if we untick this to show the app name in the bar, you can see there's nothing in there now where there was before. We could change this to something different. We'll load it. You can see it just replicates what's up there. This is just an option to collapse the sidebar by default. So if we open this now, the sidebar's open automatically instead of closed. We've got a logo here. So let me just go into here. If we it looked deaf for some reason. Okay, if I just drag a logo into there and then open, it should just update it there. So if you've got a client's logo or something like that, you can add that there. So you've got a logo variant as well. So it doesn't really show on this logo very well, but I'll put this abstract one in because this may be better. Yeah, so we've got a circular variant at the moment. If we go to square, you can see it does like a squared version. And also we've got we've got rounded. Again, that's not a very good example for an icon because I think this logo is actually rounded. So, but yeah, I guess you can just have a play with that if you download it later. But you can also change the size of this if you wanted to to do so. So we open that. You can see you can change the details of that. So just little features like that for the cosmetic side of things. We've got the theme here. So this works based on the Material UI framework for the theming. I haven't made a fully functional version. You can get very, very granular with this theme, but I've just not had the time or will to do that yet. But you can change primary colors, secondary colors, and fonts. So as I mentioned before, if I go to, let's just do DM Sans for both of these. We open them, you can see now it's changed the fonts within the system. So that's so much better than having to deal with FileMaker fonts or getting people to install fonts and stuff like that. It's just so much easier. So I've also done some presets here just to illustrate the difference. So I did one for Vienna calling and also my original one. I'll just show you Vienna calling. If I click on that, it's filled all the information. I just basically copied this color scheme off their website. So you can see here, if you load this, we've got the logo from the website and the font. So it's all a different font size now. Just change that back to me. So yeah, that's just the basic UI side of things there. So I guess we'll just go into pages now. So within the pages, literally, there's just a record representation of each of the pages that you see in here. So you can see here the dashboard. There's no component found with an ID. That's because on this dashboard page, there's no component selected. So that's the reason why. But just to illustrate, if we go on here and do, I don't know, people, and then we choose, I don't know, just choose anything. I'll leave that off because I don't want to create a component yet. And if we close this and reopen it, you can see we've got the people here with the icon that we chose. So probably not a great icon for people, but there we go. So then, as you can see, we've got the pages. You can actually include these in the menu or not. If you untick that, it won't appear in there, but the root will be in the web application. So, I mean, that's a bit meaningless now because in future revisions of this software, I'm going to be able to navigate between pages through configuring components to do so. But it's just something to bear in mind. If you untick this, it's just going to not show it, but it is there in the background essentially. So, next is the structure. So within the application, it kind of needs to know some of the components, what information about the tables and fields that it's going to be querying using the data API. I am going to swap this out for OAuth when the relevant function comes out for OAuth to perform it within script. But for now, it's just data API. So here is where you specify the tables. So literally type in the table name and then type in the data API layout. And then for the actual table, you specify all the actual fields, which are in there. Now you do, in this section, you do have to specify, and this is just because of the limitations of the data API, you have to choose the ID and you have to have an ID record field. And this is just to do with the limitation for deleting records via the data API. It does require the record ID rather than an ID. It's just a bit obscure, but anybody who's dealt with the data API will probably know that. So once you've got the structure in here, then you can configure a component to use that structure. So I've got the contacts table here, which you kind of saw before when I was navigating through. But if we go through this now, you can use contact state. You can type in the name just to label it. That doesn't really have any meaning. It's just a label within the system. You can choose a type of component. So currently, the only thing I've got in here is data table. Later, I'm gonna the next on the list is a form. So a form field, a form component. So you can create forms for filling in information and submitting it. And then the context. So this is essentially the fed from the structure. So you're just picking the table essentially. So if you click on edit, you can see here we've got columns. So these are the columns within the actual table. So you can see we've got pretty much one for every field that was in that table. We can put the label in for the field. We can choose the data type. So it's a string number at the moment. There will be more in the future. Visibility. This is quite a nice feature where you can basically say whether that field is visible on a particular breakpoint at the screen. So if the screen is extra small, like a mobile, you can say, right, I don't want to see this particular field, or vice versa. If it's large, I don't want to see that particular field. So that's what controls that. I'll show you a demonstration of all this stuff in a moment. But then you've also got options. So these are the individual options for the columns. So if we go to, say, for example, first name here, we can choose the header name. You can choose the alignment. So whether it's left, center, right, or justified. Again, you've got the column alignment. So you've got the header alignment and the column alignment can be different. You've got the JSON string type. So again, this is just string and number for the moment. And you can choose to format currency or date at the moment. There will be more in the future. And then you've got the cell component type. So these are where we're rendering a certain special element within the data table. And then we've got all these attributes that we can add to it as well. So we want to enable sorting on this particular field column. Enable filters, enable click to copy, pinning, dragging, the whole shebang. But I'll just go through and show you that. So if we return back, I'm just going to open this preview. So let me just see if I can get these. Actually, I'm just going to go through them. But okay, so you'll see when. Let's just go through the data gathering first, just to show you how this is working in the background. So when I navigate onto this page, it recognizes that this page has got this component on, so then it requests the information. It requests the data for that particular component. So if I click on here now, you can see that interaction script has loaded again. But this time the action is going to be get data table data. So, and you can see because we've stored the all that structure information already within the JSON, we can see the DAPI request has already been created for us in the actual JavaScript and spat out for us. So we don't really need to do anything. It just grabs the data based on that and returns it. Also, there is that goes the same for any changes that you make to the state of this table. So whether you do a sort, whether you do pagination, it all knows already what the structure is. So it just has to almost convert that in a function within the web code to generate the correct DAPI query for you. So literally, you don't have to do not any scripting for that. So say if I wanted to sort this, literally, again, it's the exact same thing. It's passed through this DAPI request, but it knows now that, right, okay, we need to sort order, ascend, field name, email, because we've clicked on that. So you can do that and that. It's the same with pagination. Ooh. paginate through records. But there's just so much more functionality that you can get with the with this data table versus obviously a standard portal. It's immense. There's you can drag the columns, so you can reorder them essentially. You can filter individual columns. So if you just wanted the .gov, again, it's going to spit out the relevant DAPI response request to get that data. You've got column hides, so you can hide stuff if you wanted to. You've got column pinning, so you can pin certain things to certain sides if you wanted to. So then you can't really, unless I make it smaller, you can't really see the effect of that. But yeah, you can pin items on there. Let's just turn all this nonsense off though for the moment. There is also what I didn't show you before, actually. If I go to the component and edit it, you've got row actions and toolbar actions. So row actions are essentially what happens when you well, not what happens, but what is appearing at the end of the row here. So because you've got row actions here, we've got delete and edit. That corresponds directly with this delete and edit here. We could add another thing on here for 2, and let's just say, I don't know, info, and we'll just do manual. I'm just going to say show info. Okay, and then we'll just have to regenerate this, reload the web viewer. We can see now if I go to the end, this actions, we've got this info. And if I click on that, because I've set it to manual, it's just literally going to pass through the action as what I just typed in before, show info. So you could do whatever you wanted with that. But yeah, just to demonstrate that. Back to the component itself, and we've got, they're just the row actions. There are actually actions which have baked in actions. So for example, delete. As I mentioned before, we needed to add that record ID field, but this is the reason why, because we've got a action type that isn't manual, which is delete. And what that will do is, say if we go to this record here, and let's just click delete. Again, it's going to pass through the relevant DAPI request to delete. We can see here, we go into the DAPI request, because it's got the record ID in there. It should just delete it within FileMaker. And then, yeah, it's gone there now. So it's literally gone. So it's just another interaction without doing much scripting, really. Back to here as well, we've got toolbar actions. So this is a record representation of these items up here. So you can add certain things to this bar as well. So we've got toggle density, toggle filters, and toggle column manager. So you can turn off and turn on certain things within there. I don't know what that actually does. I can't remember, but let's just see. We open this, go back. Oh. Okay, it's just the same thing that we've got. So that's just a bug or something I forgot to take out, but it's nothing like a demo, eh? Okay, so just pretend that didn't happen. Okay, but that just shows that it's a representation essentially of what that the toolbar is at the top. You can add certain buttons here. So you can see I've put a manual one in for add, which, yeah, you can set an action and a sub-action for. So if we return back to this and go in, this is that add button, essentially. And then if we click on this, you can see that action is just reflected. I don't know if I put that in here. Yeah, so it's just, this is just a catch-all at the bottom, just to show that it's passing the data through from the table, essentially. Okay. So the only thing left to show on the data table really is the toolbar, the options here. So we've got, currently we can do row click options, or you can have nothing, or you can just do a FileMaker interaction. In the future, what I'm going to do is make that to be able to navigate to another page, but currently we've just got pages with data tables on at the moment. It's something that's in the future. We'll be able to have an option here to say, right, okay, navigate to, and then specify another page from here, in turn passing the data over. So yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that's, yeah, okay. There is also the ability to interact with this table without manually clicking or anything like that. I've just got some examples in the script here. So example functions here. So error notification. So what this does is it just fires a simple JSON payload into a function within the web viewer, which shows a message. So click here, you can see there's a error notification. So if you're using this for like a hybrid system, it's handy if you're going away and doing something and you want to, it's failed, you can then put an error. Info, pretty much the same thing, just a different color. It's just demonstrating you can pass this information in. So you've got different types which correspond to different colors within the theme section. So just for completion, just do the warning. You can see here, example of a warning. Also, there's the ability to manually trigger the component to update. So, for example, the data table, if I wanted to do that via script, I can just give it a nudge to say, right, I want you to fetch an update. So it's just going to, again, just fetch the latest data, essentially. Okay, and then we've got other options for the table. We can create and update table rows as well. So let's do that. So basically you can fire in record data to update records via the ID, or you can update them. So if it doesn't find them, it will add them. And if it does find them, it will update them. So let's just see. So this is create update. I think this should be the first two records. Yeah. So you can see it updated these two records here. So Guybrush Threepwood and Elaine Marley. And then if we choose the delete here, then again, it should delete these two records. So you should see these two will drop off. That is only for within the web viewer. It's not actually deleting within FileMaker, obviously. It's just to, for example, if you've done a hybrid system where you've clicked on a table row here, and then you say you've gone away and opened up a FileMaker layout and found the record, and then you've said delete within the FileMaker. In the script for FileMaker, you could then say, right, close the window, and then update by deleting it from here as well. So it's just one of those functions that I've added in there. I mean, I'm not designing it specifically for hybrid systems, but yeah, I just want to make it the maximum compatibility so people can adopt it. Yeah. On that note as well, if I go back, so if you remember right at the beginning, we was going through the application modes. You can see here we've got single page application. So if you choose single component application, you can then choose the component. So we've only got this one context table. So if you use that, then we open the preview, you can see it's just within a single web view of the one component. So if you didn't want to make your entire application in this, you can just use the data table or whatever component that becomes available in the future. You can just use that on its own rather than going to making a decision to go to such a big change. It's like you can take baby steps essentially. That's the idea behind it. But, yeah. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that is in here currently that I can show, but I think I've pretty much covered maybe a demonstration actually of the data table, just this visibility options. So you can see here we've got the profile pick and the profile. So just to show you, we go back here. If we go smaller, you can see it changes. You can see we've got stacked text here. So we've got the full name and the job title. But if we go to a larger screen, we can fit more fields on. Then it splits these out to first name, last name, and role. So that's just an example of this particular visibility thing here. So we've got profile pick here, which is the profile pick. We've got profile. Now this is a special field, which is cell component stacked text. So that will expect the field to have stacked text, and the first line of the text will become the first line, which is highlighted in bold, and the second will be just normal text. So you can see here we've got that only appears when it's extra small, and then the inverse of that, you've got first name and last name, which only appear when it's medium to extra large. So that's basically a demonstration of that. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, plans for the future, the next step is creating a form component. So for actually putting data in via a form component, so where you'll be able to choose your fields and your components within a form and then submit that, then that creates a record in FileMaker. And then I'll be able to choose to create navigation between those pages and forms, passing data between them as well. So there's that. But yeah, within here, if we go down, I think I've actually got plans. Okay, yeah. So this is pretty outdated roadmap now because I'm well behind on it. But yeah, data table features, that's what I was working on next, which a majority of these are now done but not released. So adding localization and navigation, stuff like that. Then we've got the form component, which it'll just make it essentially a CRUD system. So you'll be able to use it on very simple systems. And then way in the future, what I'm going to do is give the ability to add multiple components to a page. So if we go back to here, you can see we've just got a component on the page. This is going to change So we can go into the actual page and choose where the components are going to go on the page. So I'm going to use this library, grid stack, within the builder. So then you can make your page like this and then click on the section and then add the component to that section. So then you're building up a more complex pages and applications as well. So that's the goal in the future, but very much in its infancy at the moment. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Yeah. So any questions? I can answer them now if you want.
Wow, Phil, this is every bit as cool as I thought it would be. Um, uh, I'm wondering when it comes to, and I may have missed something at the beginning of your presentation. It happens when you're hosting a meeting, you get distracted by details. But as far as the actual look and feel of things, like rule lines and other elements, the sort arrows and so forth, icons, how much control do we have over that part of it and just the general CSS? Is that all editable within the
It
interface
uses
that you present?
yeah, it uses the material UI framework. So I'll just quickly show on here MUI. So it's not, the idea is to have something a little less customizable, but consistent. So if we go to material UI here, you can see there's a ton of components here which you can use for different things, but they are all governed by the theme object. So within the builder here, the CSS is essentially in the theme here. You can choose the fonts. You've got primary color, secondary color, primary text color, secondary. There is a ton more of attributes that you can have in this theme object. It's just you can get I guess the answer to your question is you can get more granular, but it's never going to be to the level of like total customization, because that kind of defeats one of the objects of what I was trying to achieve with it, which was not give people too much flexibility to make bad decisions.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions for Phil?
I want to just make a comment. First and foremost, Phil, this is beautiful. It's quite nice. Um, it provides a nice, elegant, responsive design and so forth. It strikes me, taking a step back and looking at this, I think over the years, we look at the FileMaker tool set and we go, oh, well, we don't have charting. And so somebody in the marketplace actually comes in and goes, hey, I'm going to build, Digital Fusion's going to build this set of charting tools, or we need sync, or plugins, or greater fidelity of web. You look at FM Better Forms, which is sort of filling that niche above WebDirect and yet lower than full stack. You look at, we just had Jesse last month talking about sync and mirror sync, and this entire little industry of these pieces indicate number one, there's a need, and number two, that they're not part of the core product, right? So the core product lacks some of these types of things, and the real nimble and clever people like yourself are coming in going, hey, here's how it can be done. So it's both incredibly powerful that we have a community of people filling these gaps like yourself. It's also a bellwether to go, Claris should probably, I mean, we've seen multiple presentations this year that were full-blown JavaScript inside web viewers without using any sort of native or traditional native layout applications. There's a burden, you're shouldering that burden by obfuscating a lot of the CSS and giving people nice things, but it also shows that to build a nice, modern, responsive application is a need in this community. And I hope that the people at Claris kind of pay attention to the marketplace and go, hey, a lot of people are doing add-ons or features that we don't have in our product. And at the end of the day, wouldn't it be better if a lot of these things were part of the shipping product? Because I think the design surface, Bob has talked about this a lot over the years, the design surface and the tools that we use, somewhat antiquated compared to what else is out there. And of course, you're doing a nice job of grafting modern capabilities into this platform that lacks some of those sort of modern capabilities. So it's really interesting to watch how the market is kind of adjusting around the pros and the cons, the shortcomings and the benefits of having this baked into the core product.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. There was I think it was God, I can't remember how long it was ago, but do you remember they started to go down somewhat of a route like this, where they had a different version of a layout that you could use. I think they brought it out in like an ETS version one time or something like that, but then it was scrapped. It was like it was going to have like a responsive layout where you could drag the sections, but I'm not sure if that morphed into becoming Claris Connect or Connect Studio or something like that. So I got very excited about that prospect when it first happened, and then it kind of disappeared. And I was like, oh well, just like all of us, whenever there's a problem, we try and solve it, don't we? But yeah, I mean, I originally thought, I'm going to try and make like a product out of this in terms of like, a chargeable thing. But then I just thought, it's just so much effort to secure such a product. So I've just done it for free, really. It's going to be like a free product. There's a license attached with it. I think in the end game is what I'm going to make a version of the code which you can host on a web server, and then that can just fire back to FileMaker. So the idea is that if you end up creating this within FileMaker, you can transfer to using it without FileMaker in the future, in a hosted paid-for service. But this particular inside FileMaker, it's just too hard to secure and sort, so I've just done it for free, essentially.
It's really interesting that you found a whole new kind of intersection for providing this kind of functionality that is not Studio, and it is not FMBetter Forms. It's yet another place where we can combine our FileMaker and web chops into something completely unique. It's great. I love it when this happens, when somebody finds a completely new angle on presenting the information to users in general. And it looks great, and it looks like it's very accessible to the average FileMaker developer. And to speak to what Dave was saying, just being able to select from more fonts than we currently have available to us on the average FileMaker layout, if we're worried about cross-platform issues at all, which most of the time we have to be these days. Just that alone is huge, because what we have available to us is so limited. And anybody from Claris who's here has heard me harp on this already, so probably
we're not saying anything out loud, Rick, that it's not being listened to. One other thing, it was funny in the comments, Phil, somebody was going, well, I kind of don't see the advantage of some of the, there's some overhead with learning how this tool works and so forth. And right as that question was being asked, you grabbed a list view that was desktop shaped and dragged it into iOS shape, and the responsive design did exactly what it should. I'm like, boom, there you go. That's exactly why is you can build in the metaphors that we already enjoy in the web with responsiveness and some of the other features that you had that we just don't have. We don't have that capability to replicate.
And don't forget, this is always like the alpha or early beta version, but this is like a very rough builder. Wrong one. Yeah, very rough builder. Eventually, this will become a web application itself. So it's going to be a lot easier to use. There's going to be a lot more functionality in it to help you with some of the repetitive stuff. So to just address that kind of question where, oh, you have to go in and create all these, it may seem like tedious to go in and create all this structure and almost it's just like a job. But I mean, it's something where I could create a script where I can point it to FileMaker OData and grab all the schema from wherever you want to get it from. That's the beauty of it. I mean, because it's made in FileMaker, it is flexible in that way, the builder, where you could easily make those kind of features. It's just I want to concentrate first on getting a CRUD system, like a fully functional CRUD system working, and then I'll start improving the builder somewhat to make that a bit more easier.
Yeah, the genius is, guess what? We can grab a FileMaker backend, we can build a React front end on it right now, or using the API, you can go to Angular or Laravel, whatever. You can do that already. The genius is the file that you have in front of everybody, where they don't have to roll up their sleeves and learn that other platform. You've got this middleware that's basically between the web technologies and the existing FileMaker solution, and built this interface with a wizard to go answer these questions, and we got your back. So it's a real nice little add-on feature to getting people into some more modern UI with again getting those web capabilities without having to become an expert in all of
I mean that was part of the goal for making it as well, is just to make it like easy for anybody to do it. If you know FileMaker, this shouldn't be like hard for you to go through and do it. Literally, it's a good thing as well is you've got this config JSON. So this is essentially the blueprints for an entire system. So if you had a client and you made a system for them, and you've got the blueprints here, and then another client comes along, you can just modify it, copy it. I mean, you could even, like in the future with OData, you could even make the structure in here first, and then push it into a FileMaker file. Using OData to create the tables and relationships required to fulfill this application. So it could eventually become reverse, where we create the FileMaker application in here, and then it outputs a database file.
Yeah, you could frame this both as an interface builder on top of FileMaker, but you could also use this as almost like a code builder to build out your code. Real rapid application. Guess what, Bob? We've only got a couple of fonts and colors available. But once you get that code, copy it, get it into a full-blown JavaScript stack. Now you can put those sliders in and those star ratings and all of those little widgets that you want to enhance. But this might be terribly fast at generating that core level of code and interface intersection, and then let you kind of spice things up inside a JavaScript framework, down the road.
Yeah, exactly. It's like within the components section here, we've literally got the data table, but there's going to be, the idea is to have tons in the end. We're going to have like graphs, calendars. We're only limited by the supported JavaScript libraries, really. It's just the work involved is I have to implement that library into the web code and just make a nice translation layer, but to make it, it's almost like making an API for that JavaScript components API, just to make it a little easier for people to use, rather than having to read all the documentation for that JavaScript component. You can just come in here and tick a few boxes and generate it instead.
One last question, and then I think we're going to be at time. Saul has a question too. You know what, Saul? Why don't you go ahead?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, great job, Phil. This is really cool. Thanks for sharing. So you obviously know FileMaker development and web development, which I think is kind of a rare case in the FileMaker community, but I think it's really important. But I'm curious, which did you learn first? And if it was FileMaker, how did your FileMaker skill set apply to learning web development?
It was FileMaker first. I did little bits of like back in the 90s, like HTML and stuff, but like it became, it was just learning basic JavaScript and to make components within FileMaker in web viewers. Again, trying to bridge the gap where there was something that I wanted which wasn't available. So I just learned that, and then I got onto more complex.
Let me ask you a question about that. So that process of learning the web components, were you able to kind of use your FileMaker web development experience and knowledge to apply to that? So the learning curve, what I'm really curious about
Yeah,
is,
I mean, there's a lot of translatable skills, and it's almost like it's like languages, isn't it? It's like they both use variables. There's essentially triggers, which you can have like watches in JavaScript. So a lot of the concepts are the same. It did help a lot knowing FileMaker.
that's awesome.
But I also one of my best friends is a like a senior React developer, so it's good to have him to lean on when I got to the more advanced stuff. But now it's like, I don't know, it's so much easier because of like AI for people to learn, because you've got a tutor right next to you
Right.
in your web window that can guide you on these kind of things. But yeah, for me, I found it like it was invaluable knowing FileMaker, because I think I tried to learn JavaScript and stuff like that before I stumbled into FileMaker, and I found it quite challenging. But after I've done FileMaker, like it was like, oh, this is just the same as FileMaker, but you do it this way, you know.
Exactly. I feel like I've had the same experience, and I really want to kind of, I'm so glad you said that, because I really want to kind of encourage the FileMaker community to hear that trying to learn JavaScript in the beginning was tough. It seemed daunting. But once you have your FileMaker development skill set, going back to learning JavaScript seemed so much more accessible because the concepts translate, like you said. And so I just appreciate you
Yeah,
mentioning
I mean, the only thing I'd say is anybody who's interested in doing that, don't be put off by like a bazillion different frameworks and this is the new thing and that is a new thing. Just start with like basic JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript, and then just build on top of that, really.
Cool. Thank you.
That's good advice. Thanks for that question, Sol. One last question, Phil. I know that this is not a commercial product, and I know that it's probably a side project for you, and you have other things to work on besides this. Um, and also, I know that you said it's maybe an alpha or an early beta. When do you think, like, how far along in the process are you? You can do it in percentages or however you want, but can you give us an idea when you think this might be a product that people could actually rely on in production systems?
Yeah, probably ballpark. Probably it's hard to say because of my schedule is like in spare time. But probably within a year, I would say it's going to be,
Awesome.
and that's if AI hasn't taken over from. So we seem to now be going back to the world of fancy command line interfaces instead of UI. So it's a bit discouraging, but yeah, I'd say about like for something like properly tested and everything like that, it's with enough features to make a simple CRUD system, probably about a year from now, I'd say, maybe a little less.
Okay.
But and it all depends on my schedule. But yeah, it's that's the hope anyway. But it's good. Like I say, it's you can go and have a play with it. If you go to rapidstack.app, it'll just take you to here and you can download it. There is a license with it, but it's just basically saying you don't steal the code and resell it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you can read all that in your own time. So
Well, it's very, very cool. Really enjoyed that. Thank you very much, Phil. Appreciate you being here to share that with us. Okay, next up, before the break is Chris Moyer and the Tech News Roundup. Chris, you ready to roll?
I am ready to roll. Let me get my share set up. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
There we go. Okay, welcome to the August edition of the Tech News Roundup. So, interesting moment in time here. Black Hat just wrapped up in Vegas this week. So, there's a lot of security news uh, that I have this month that I don't usually have quite this much. First up, CVE 2025 53786 was discussed at Black Hat. And as a result, CISA has ordered all federal civilian executive branches to patch Microsoft Exchange by Monday. So I don't know if you guys remember, but a couple of years back, there was an Exchange hack that resulted in some of the FileMaker hosting companies getting compromised, and several FileMaker servers were ransomwared. It was unpleasant. So if any of you have Exchange in your cloud infrastructure and you don't want to compromise, you should pay attention to this CVE. It affects Microsoft Exchange Server 2016, 2019 in the subscription edition. If you have a hybrid configuration, the Exchange Online and on-premise servers share the same service principal. It's a shared trust relationship used to authenticate, each server to the other. And an attacker with admin privileges on an on-premise Exchange server can potentially um, create trusted tokens or API calls that the cloud side will accept as legitimate. And that would allow the attacker to spread laterally from the local network into the company's cloud infrastructure and possibly compromise the entire Active Directory and domain infrastructure. Microsoft says that cloud-based logging tools like Microsoft Purview may not log the malicious activity if it originates from an on-prem exchange. So it makes it extra hard to detect the exploit. And then the flaw, I guess, was introduced when Microsoft released an Exchange server hotfix in April 2025 to support a new architecture that uses the dedicated hybrid application. And a security researcher named Dirk Jan Malema of Outsider Security demonstrated how this shared service principle could be exploited in a post-exploit attack during Black Hat presentation. So basically, he said, here's how you do it. So it's out in the wild now. Everyone knows how to do it. And again, if you have Exchange servers in your infrastructure, you should patch them quickly. Speaking of getting compromised, Google just got fairly significant data breach. So there is a threat actor called Shiny Hunters. They've been around for years. They're responsible for a bunch of breaches: PowerSchool, Oracle Cloud, the Snowflake data theft attacks, AT&T, Wattpad, Mathway, a whole bunch of others. And apparently Bleeping Computer got one of these people on the phone. So they're actually quoting them, and they said they claim to have breached many Salesforce instances with attacks still ongoing. Other companies that have been impacted by these attacks include Adidas, Qantas Airlines, Alliance Life, Cisco, Louis Vuitton, Dior, Tiffany and Company. So they've been popping everybody left, right, and center. So you should read up on it. And if you or someone you know uses Salesforce, watch out, because Salesforce is getting compromised in many, many organizations, and it's still happening. The Russian national airline was also compromised after a cyber attack that their flag carrier resulted in the cancellation of more than 60 flights, severe delays. Official sources from Russia, like the General Prosecutor's Office, did not attribute the attack to specific threat groups. But apparently this was done by Ukrainian and Belarusian hacktivist collectives called Silent Crow and Cyber Partisans BY. That second group, Cyber Partisans BY, was also known for attacks on the Belarusian railway that actively supported the movement of Russian military equipment into Ukraine. So when Russia did some staging of Ukraine attacks in Belarus, these guys basically hacked the railway company. According to announcements made on X and on Telegram, they claim to have infiltrated the IT infrastructure for over a year, mapped it extensively to pinpoint all resources, and then destroyed it, air quotes. And the specifics of that are they claim to have gained access to 122 hypervisors, 43 ZVIRT virtualization installations, 4 Proxmox clusters, and they exfiltrated all the databases from flight history and employee workstations, including those of top executives, wiretapping servers containing phone call recordings, and personnel monitoring systems. So they claim to have wiped 7,000 physical and virtual servers hosting 12 terabytes of databases, 8 terabytes of Windows share files, and 2 terabytes of corporate email. And they have threatened to publish all the stolen data soon, warning that it would expose every Russian who has flown with the airline. So there's that. And then there's a dating safety app called T. It has been breached. It exposed 72,000 user images, I believe license plates or driver's licenses. I forget what they store. I guess it's their photo IDs that they use to verify users. So 4chan users claim to be sharing personal data and selfies from T after discovering an exposed database. So that's not good. And then, whoops, got ahead of myself there. Apparently, Home Depot and Lowe's, who have, fairly extensive video camera coverage of their premises, have been sharing that information with Flock. And you can see the little flock in the top left corner there. And so the Electronic Frontier Foundation filed a public records request with the Johnson County, Texas Sheriff's Office and shared that information with 404 Media. You can see what the FOIA files resulted in that lower link at the bottom of the slide here. But basically, it showed that the sheriff's office was able to tap into the Flock license plate reading cameras at 173 different Lowe's locations around the U.S. And it can do pretty much the same tap into cameras. And apparently, Home Depot has gunshot detecting microphones at their stores within Texas. So Flock's surveillance has become fairly expansive. And the researcher Dave Moss at the EFF said, what we're learning is that 2 of the country's most popular home improvement stores are contributing to the massive surveillance dragnet coordinated by Flock Safety. Do customers know that these stores are collecting their data and sharing indiscriminately? Probably not. Have these companies given thought about how this data might put their customers in danger, whether it's cops stalking their exes or aggressive ICE agents targeting yard workers? Probably not. If these companies want customers to feel safe in their homes, then they should make sure they're also safe where they buy their supplies. So catching a little heat from the EFF. And then, maybe people are happy that the consulting industry is catching heat. There seems to be a lot of, I don't know, Schadenfreude about the consulting industry getting dented by the new AI technology. So I'll get to it in a minute, but Microsoft released a list of 40 job occupations that are at risk of having sort of a skills overlap or exposure with AI. And management analyst is one of those occupations. And so apparently McKinsey has done some hand-wringing. McKinsey's reduced its headcount, they say partly to correct a pandemic hiring spree, and they rolled out 12,000 AI agents. And these bots now assist their consultants in building PowerPoint decks, taking notes, and summing up interviews and research documents for clients. Back in the 90s, McKinsey and Boston Consulting Group and Bain, which are the big 3 elite advisors, they had about a few thousand staff between them, and today they employ 90,000 consultants or staff. Some of those are consultants, some of those not. Over the past decade, their combined revenue has more than doubled. And I guess research has found that companies who hire strategy consultants experience significant and sustained improvement in productivity relative to those who don't. Um, but there's certainly elite analysts at these consulting firms, and there are sort of the juniors right out of college who are handling lower tier engagements, and they're sort of recycling content they already have. And the bottom line is that that sort of, mid-level and low-level consulting can easily be done by the likes of ChatGPT and Gemini and Anthropic. And so um, they're being more pressed on what their actual value proposition is now. So I guess that's what we have to say about that. Here's the bit about this is a separate related article about this. This person has created, well, is it there or is it my next slide? Nope, it's this guy, Xavier AI. So this person, Philippe, has developed a reasoning engine that allows you to benchmark companies' performance against competitors. I could estimate market sizes for new ventures, build financial models, et cetera, et cetera. So it basically takes direct aim at that segment of the business of the McKinseys of the world. And so you can use this, which seems very targeted and sort of massaged to a specific deliverable, or you can use ChatGPT or Gemini, as I mentioned, and that'll work too. So just interesting whose ox is actually getting gored in the rise of AI and what jobs are being displaced. For those of you who haven't heard, Microsoft released a list of occupations that they feel are going to be most impacted by AI. And whoops, there it goes. As I mentioned, management analyst is on that list. And so you can see there's, not quite 1 million of those people, but it's a lot of those people. And, higher on the list, it's like 0.9%. And these would be like marketing copywriters or translators or things like that. So management analysts have about a 0.68 overlap with the existing crop of AI tools. So slightly less exposure, but they definitely have exposure. So some of their deliverables, are losing their luster. So moving on, speaking of AI, there's been a ton of stuff happening in AI lately. So just over the last 3 weeks, over 50, maybe even 60 different LLMs have been released. So the fire hose velocity is, picked up. If anything, it hasn't slowed down at all. For a while there, it looked like the new release pace was going to slow down a little bit as these models got bigger and bigger, but no such luck. So GPT OSS just came out with a 120B and a 20B open weight language models. You can run, if you use LM Studio or something like that, you can actually self-host these and run them yourself. And then ChatGPT 5 was just released yesterday, and we had LM Studio and Llama, within less than 24 hours release new versions of theirs so they could actually support all this. And I would like to dish off to, frequent contributor here and sort of friend of the tech news, special UK correspondent Ian Jempson, because he has tested some of this new stuff out and he has a couple thoughts. So Ian, if you feel like chiming in, chime in.
Hey, yeah, okay. So there's a couple of issues with the new open source models. Well, actually, in the ChatGPT 5, um, if you're using the FileMaker AI server that comes with FileMaker server, basically it doesn't run with the new open source models from OpenAI, unfortunately. However, both Olama and LM Studio, they do work. And it's quite interesting because So I've got a 32 gigabyte Mac Studio server here running a Llama. And what I found was that the 20 billion parameter version of the model is the first open source model that I've seen that can actually run the FileMaker natural language search function. And given it's only 32 gigabytes, it's not the fastest thing in the world, but it does run. So it's quite interesting that the model is that strong. And it's also quite good with the generate from model function as well. Though there are some limitations. It seems that if you use streaming, that these new models won't work. And it's also worth pointing out that if you're using OpenAI directly, that the streaming models will not work. So that's kind of broken. But it's so it's kind of a good news, bad news, if we could say it that way. But it's really encouraging that these new stronger models are able to run on something as small as a 32 gigabyte machine. Though given everything is kind of single threaded when it comes to these queries, you probably want something much more powerful than that. But for demo purposes and playing around, it's quite good, very encouraging. Anyway, so back to you, Chris.
All right, thanks, Ian. And so I usually like to end the tech news on sort of an oddball news item, and so I thought this was oddball. Heidi Porter found this one, radioactive wasp nest. So for those of you who aren't familiar, South Carolina holds one of the largest nuclear waste disposal sites in the world. It's called the Savannah River Site. Westinghouse used to run it. It's owned by the Department of Energy. They've got, what is it, like 34.5 million gallons of liquid radioactive waste. Basically, any nuclear reactors in the United States which have nuclear waste tends to end up here. And so, it's catches everybody's attention when they basically found 4 wasp nests, and they sprayed the nest, killed the wasps, and discovered that the nests were highly radioactive. So apparently the wasps, which can, get into holes in the ground, have found some sort of point of ingress to nuclear waste and are getting contaminated and spreading the contamination to the nest. So all the dead wasps in the nest are now nuclear waste and also have to be stored there. And so it's crazy to me, but of course they say, there's no surrounding contamination, everybody's safe, nothing to see here. But what a bonkers story. Somewhere there is some sort of pathway to nuclear waste that wildlife can access. And so now we're ending up with, I remember when we had the murder hornets, and now we have radioactive hornets, which is not an upgrade in my book. But anyway, that is the Tech News Roundup for August.
Thank you, Chris.
Sure.
Always informative, and thank you, Ian, as well. Always informative, always enjoyable, and Chris, you're still sharing, by the way. All right, so I am going to now pause things for a moment. All right, welcome back, everyone. Now it's time for some quick announcements and then our next presentation. Lynn Allen, you had something to say.
Yes, those of you who were on our MailChimp announcement list, we are retiring that list and using Meetup as our main method of contact. So if you only get your announcements through MailChimp, we're going to ask you to join us over at Meetup. It's free to sign up. And it's Go to meetup.com and search for FMDiSC and ask to become a member, and you will be approved shortly. And then you'll get all our announcements as usual. So we're just doing that as an administrative thing to reduce the overhead of the people who run the meetings. So thank you. That's it.
All right. Thanks, Lynn. Does anyone else have anything they want to share at this time?
Yeah, DigFM invites you to Dan Shockley's Crack the Code presentation next week. He's bringing the power of text editing tools to FileMaker objects, like I think scripts and calculations. I don't know, what else did you have, Tony?
Everything that FileMaker has exposed to the copy and paste functionality that you all use day to day. And that would be scripts and script steps, tables and fields, layout objects, later custom functions, value lists, custom menus. I think that's complete for now, Rick. That's just what we have for now. More to come. And this will actually, all kidding aside, will be an amazing presentation. If you're going to go to one presentation that this year that's not FMDiSC, this would be the one.
You could see a sample of what he's going to do right there behind me. By the way, any relation to Shockley, to Shockey, or any relation there?
Spelled differently.
What date is the event?
That would be a Thursday evening. It's a Thursday.
T-minus 6 days from now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then speaking of DigFM, we're having a sort of in-person reunion at Full Access Conference. That's on October 20th to 23rd. You can check out, I put in the chat, who's already attending. That's a really good list. And there's even going to be a session there about user groups themselves, user groups like FMDiSC and DigFM. So there'll be that. I don't know, John Howell's here. Actually, he could probably tell you more if he has anything to add.
John?
He's busy organizing the conference, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
very cool.
Okay.
I'm here on audio working on another computer. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Eric's got it right. So full access is October 20th, 23rd in Los Altos. It's less than $1,000 and you share a room, it's even cheaper. But Eric's right. We're going to have some wonderful sessions. I think we have 31 sessions. We get people signing up all the time and some significant players there, along with a lot of wonderful people.
Yeah.
We have an app that Dennis Burnham put together that's full access to go. That's kind of like your old DevCon to go or your old Engage to go, but it's fully functional on WebDirect, FileMaker Go, any platform, and it integrates with our website, which is all in WordPress with FileMaker in the back end. So you can, if you go to the event and you're standing somewhere and you need to know where's my room, there's a GPS coordinates that'll guide you everywhere in the facility. We also have a professional recording team coming up who's going to be doing pre-production and post-production and recording some of the events and some of the sessions and putting them on YouTube later. A lot of good stuff happening. So just check out fullaccess.us, or for the app, you can look at our app at go.fullaccess.us. That's enough.
Okay, great. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Bob, real quick. Folks that were in the breakout room who asked for the links to Wim and Todd's 10 days of AI FMTV, it's in the chat, the links to all 10 of those.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, thanks, Rick.
One final, at ACD, we're actually looking for some additional help, both in the FileMaker, project management, and web areas. So if anybody's looking for a little extra contract work or whatever, please feel free to reach out.
All right. Great. And next month's meeting is going to be hosted by one of our newest board members, Sol Rodriguez. Sol, did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, but just give me a little grace as I do my first, attempt. I think I'm going to have a little bit of help from all the veterans here. And if anybody has something interesting that they want to share, please reach out to me. I hear that there may be some available announcements from Claris, by that point. So kind of, Rick, I'm looking at you. If there's something that comes up before, that date, we'd love to have you or somebody from Claris, give any updates on what's going on at that time. Other than that, I will be reaching out to get some speakers for my first round of of moderating FMDiSC.
All right, great. Thanks, Sol.
Mhm.
All right. Well, without any further ado, then I would like to introduce Marcel Moré, and he is going to talk to us about some AI agents. So, Marcel, are you ready to go?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Bob. I will share my screen. And we start right here. Okay, building AI agents with n8n and FileMaker. This is a bit of an update to my presentation at Vienna Calling Conference earlier this summer, and it's not exactly the same. I will leave out a lot of the basic stuff and develop the topics further, and we will see new demos today that was not part of the Vienna Calling presentation, and it has to do with MCP and wipe coding FileMaker. And beside that, we have a look at what agents are inside the context of n8n and the platform itself to understand how all this works together. So thank you for the introduction. Marcel Moré, French name, I already said it, but I come from Germany. I'm into the IT space for a long time, 44 years now. I started early and I got early in contact with FileMaker, so I enjoyed a long journey from version 2 to today. And beside my business, I did some presentations at the European conferences. They are all still online on my blog. Not all have video recordings, but all the slides are available. Have a look at my blog if you're interested in. And beside that, together with Holger Herbst, we host a monthly meetup for FileMaker enthusiasts like you do in the California area. We do here in the middle center part of Germany. We hosted more than 100 events and have a website where are 400 write-ups to be found. We do no recordings, but we have a kind of newsletter with all the topics that were covered in detail. And if you are interested to join us as a guest or as a speaker or presenter, drop me a line. We can arrange this. Some of you have already joined, so spread the word and come to join us. So, short preface before we go into the demos. There's a little history lesson. Some of you know part of it. It was part of an earlier presentation from the years before here at FMDiSC. And you might remember this slide here. It's a kind of representative image what computer looked like in the ages when we were born. So it looked a bit old-fashioned from today's perspective, but that's how all this started. And something happens on the way until now. And I call this the 3 cycles of IT development. We had this command line computing, like we saw in this image before. We had desktop computing, and finally it was superseded with cloud computing as we know it today. So there are quite different approaches and the paradigms how to use this kind of IT and to develop infrastructure and applications changed a lot. And if you think of agents, agents have been some fictional characters with some kind of superpowers in famous movies we liked in all these years. And even they changed a lot in their appearance and what they can do. But now something happens in these times, the last 1 or 2 years. We have a new era, the era of AI agents, and that means something completely different. As the guys on the side left, it means that now we have a new paradigm, a fundamental shift in computing. It is non-deterministic. It brings new kind of interactions. All this, what we have before, command line, desktop, cloud computing, it was very deterministic it was repeatable, it needed some expertise to set it up. And now we have this kind of AI agents that are totally different. And we have a look into it, and the side effect of it is that today we have a lot of hype. We are in the middle of a hype cycle, a lot of buzzwords coming up, and it's a bit challenging to understand all these concepts and how all these work together. And we will dive into this, see some of these topics related to FileMaker. And so let's get practical. I found a perfect tool to complement FileMaker. I did some coding with AI in FileMaker the last 2 years to call APIs from OpenAI and other providers. But then I stumbled upon n8n, and it made the approach a lot more easier with a lower barrier to get into the complicated stuff. So if you haven't heard of n8n before, it is a kind of acronym for Node Nation. It's a visual low-code platform, a bit like Claris Connect, but different. It's a startup from Berlin. It was founded 5 years ago by a guy named Jan Oberhauser. He needed something for himself, and he built something. And it was under the radar of many people. It had a very, very special purpose, but lately it got viral as a low-code AI tool. And if you look at YouTube these days, there are tons of stuff regarding n8n and AI agents, and that is for a special reason. n8n itself is a very solid platform. It has more than 1,000 integrations, official integrations built into the platform. Even a FileMaker integration comes out of the box. Then there is community integrations where you can install some kind of plugins to extend this further. They have meanwhile over 4,000 workflow templates that you can just grab from their website with copy paste into your editor, and it just works, and you can use it and evolve them further. At my last presentation, it had been only 2,000. You see, it just doubled in a time of a few weeks, and they earned more than 125,000 GitHub stars. That's quite a lot for a platform like this. And it is for the reason they have great documentation. They have a broad community, a bit like in the FileMaker space, where a lot of people doing different things. And the product itself is available as a cloud service, that their bread and butter business, but they have also on-prem version. And the on-prem version has a kind of free license. It's not open source, but it's a fair code license so that you can make use out of it. And it's a full product. It's a full product you can host on your own machine, on your own servers. And they have you can spin up a Docker image, download this, and have it running in 5 minutes. And it's interesting for us in the FileMaker space because it is a perfect complementary platform to extend our existing solutions further and connect this with the new AI stuff. And the AI stuff is that they have ready-made nodes for this. If we do AI in FileMaker, we have to call APIs, or in the newest versions, we have some script steps, and we have to fill out all the technical background to make this happen. And n8n is different. They have ready-made nodes that you can just implement with a few clicks. They have all of the state-of-the-art models integrated, OpenAI, Claude, Gemini, Mistral. Ollama is an option if you want to host local models on your own servers or machines. And yesterday, OpenAI announced ChatGPT version 5. It is available today in n8n. You can just select it from the node and use it. And how does it happen? They did a really clever integration of LangChain. And LangChain is one of the best of breed frameworks to orchestrate AI agents. It's open source framework as far as I know, and they integrate it into their workflow platform. So there's support for vector stores to make embeddings. They have Kudra, Pinecone, Supabase as standard options, but you can choose from other as well. And there's even a self-hosted AI starter kit on GitHub that you can just download as Docker images. There's n8n included, there's Kudra included, and Ollama included, so that you can host a fully self-contained, self-hosted version without any need for connection outside to any cloud provider. So there are some really interesting options in this. It's like a big toolbox, and we will have a look how to make sense out of it. So we dive into some demos. I had a chat with Matt Nawar earlier, and he said it would be best if I start with the interesting stuff first and then explain how it works. So I will switch a bit of my presentation right now so that you can get an impression why all this stuff is so exciting. On the left side, what we see here is the platform N8N. And what I will do next is I start up Claude and have a conversation with Claude, but not with Claude alone, but with the FileMaker file that is attached to the whole setup here. This is the Claude desktop app. You can install it on a Mac. It's just like the website, but it has a different thing that you can connect MCP providers here, MCP servers. So what we will see in a minute here is that this is a FileMaker file that I host on a local FileMaker server here. It has not fancy GUI, but just some data to illustrate what we can do with it. And I can just ask Claude about our data. And what we will see in a minute is I've prepared some, I have to fiddle around a bit with all these windows from Zoom here. Okay. We can ask, there are some fake names here. First I ask Claude which tools it has available. So Claude has some own tools for doing internet research and building these artifacts with JavaScript code and such things. But now you see there are some new tools here. There's an MBS plugin for FileMaker, documentation lookup. There's calendar event creation, email sending, invoice management. So that is not the classical setup that Claude brings out of the box, but this is a connection that N8N allows us to interact with our FileMaker data. So I can ask now for customer Maria from Sweden, for example. We see here is a name on the first line. And what you see now, there's a tool call to N8N. We can expand this. There's a query for the name, and back comes a response from our FileMaker database. And now Claude gets this data and says, okay, I found two people named Maria in the database. Here is one from Sweden. The other Maria is from UK, not Sweden. So this might be the one we are looking for. And I can go further and ask, does she have any invoices? And I only say she. I don't even provide a name or a record ID. I only extend this context we have here. There's another table with some invoices attached with customer ID and invoice ID. And so if I ask Claude to give us the invoices of this customer, it remembers that we had this customer here with this ID. It finds a tool that finds invoice by people ID, and it answers, yes, okay, she has 4 invoices. And it goes even further that the model itself recognizes that there is a status field, and the status field says some invoices are paid and some are open. And I only ask if there are any invoices, and the model itself makes some reasoning about it. It gives us the content of the invoice, what products are on it. It makes a sum out of the amounts. It recognizes that there are some open invoices and gives us a note about this. So we have some other tools. We saw in the beginning that there is some kind of email tool as well. So I delete this. This was my test. And this is Google Calendar and Google Gmail. I attached an account to N8N. And now I will ask Claude to send a friendly reminder by email. I just say her a friendly reminder. I did not specify any further. I just call this and let the model fill out what to do next. So it finds a tool, send email. It remembers our history of our chat, which customer that was, were there any open invoices. And now I refresh my drafts, and here we are, a perfect texted email with a reminder. Dear Maria, I hope this email finds you well. I want to reach out with a friendly reminder about outstanding invoices. So the model was able to make sense out of our information from the FileMaker database, builds a professional email, and we have a draft that we can just send out now. And all this with a few words in plain English. No heavy API calling, no heavy programming, just an MCP server. And we will see in some minutes how this all works. We can go a bit further. I look up another customer, find John from California, and we can see that in the people's list, there might be a John. It again uses a tool, find people by name, query for John, and an answer comes back. So let's see if it finds the right person. And I ask for John from California, and this is a bit special here because there's no information about California in our customer database. We only have villages names, here city names, and zip codes, and country code. And now he said, okay, something went wrong. We have been disconnected. I just try to do it again. Tries to find, okay, he found two people, John Doe in San Mateo, and California is not even in our FileMaker record. It is something the LLM knows by itself, that San Mateo's USA is a town inside California with this postal code. So there's another John in Sweden, so this is not California, and the model figured out to do something with our data. So we go further, and let's look if we have some interesting tools. I have some demo data here for MCP. We have some products. I put in the cup, drag and drop to Claude and say, okay, create an invoice for this item priced $10. And we are in the context of John, so perhaps it is clever enough to create an invoice for John Doe and put a green mark into it for $10, and the invoice is opened. So just natural language, just very basic. I can drag in a picture. The LLM will understand what is inside the picture and make a line item in our invoice out of it. And it just works. So we go one further. We create new customers. And I don't want to type so much, so I got some images of business cards. I just drag it in. We see there's some fake images of mock-ups here. Let's see if the model is able to read this and create new customers in our people list. So look at the number, we have 103. It creates another customer because there is a more, this is Michaela Gerster, this is the middle one, and now Yuma Yakruva Boston is the last one. So the AI was able to understand the text in the pictures, read the right information out of it and put it in the right fields inside FileMaker. So I did not code anything to make this happen. It is just the capability of the AI to reason about what is the endpoint for providing me for fields in our FileMaker database, and how could I map the information from the image to some data fields inside this FileMaker solution. So we made some new customers. So we perhaps want to make an appointment with Max for a drink tomorrow at 10 a.m. and send him a nice invitation by email. Here's some demo data already populated. This is our Google Calendar. This is our email. I assume that the model is able to understand who Max is. It will read the information. It needs his email address. It will create an event. You'll see it populate here. It's right at this moment. meeting with Dr. Max Muster. Then he finds people by ID. He created this record, so it remembers the ID. And okay, it called a tool that we didn't want it to call. There's another one to create a node. So that's not what was intended. I can show you here. Notizen is a German word for, okay, something went wrong. It's not, so we talked about it is always predictable. And I will show you why this is not that much predictable, because there's nothing involved here. No system prompts, no coding. It's just the AI guessing what we want to do next. So how is it possible? We'll have a look at NNN now. And what we did here, we have a kind of MCP node. MCP is a new protocol. Anthropic introduced it some months ago. It's a kind of standard to talk for AI models to talk to tools. And tool could be a very simple thing like a calculator. I can show it to you. We make a new chat. Use the calculator tool to I give it 2 numbers and let it do its thing. You can see it here. Executions. If it works, it calls the calculator now with some input and then gets a response. It took here 5 milliseconds. We can open this, look in our log file, and if we make it this bigger, we can see the MCP server was called. The model figured out that there is a tool called calculator. The calculator got our query. This is what we put in here. And then the calculator returned a response. This is a tool that only can do calculations, so it has not to guess around what to do. It just takes its numbers, gives back the response and feed it back to the AI agent. And the AI agent will present us the result as text. So this is the basic principle, that we have an endpoint for an MCP server that is connected to Claude. We see it here. We have these 13 tools here inside Claude. There's a calculator at the top, and then we have all these other find people by name, find people by ID, find invoice by people ID, and so forth. We have send email, create event, create invoice, and all these are endpoints in our MCP server. So if we go back to the editor, you can see it here, that there are just some tool points here, find invoice by ID, and there's just a little node. Call this tool to find invoices in the database by invoice ID. And then we can choose from our workflows. There are all our workflows inside NNN. We can just look it up here, attach it to this endpoint for find invoice by ID, and then give it a query. And we didn't even specify the query. We just say, okay, defined automatically by the model. So it's no JSON definition, nothing. Just a field that we say the model should figure out what to do here. And the only hint we give it, that there is a invoice ID as a number needed. So Claude will look up all these metadata, will identify the names of the tools with their meaning, and even identify what parameters are needed, and then specify all the interaction with the MCP protocol to bring back and forth the needed information and call the tools. And if we look at find invoice by ID, we go back here. There's a, you can look it up, find invoice by ID. There's a small workflow. When it's called, then it's just one node here, the FileMaker node, and it's connected to my FileMaker server. There's a host address. There's this people database we saw in the other window, and I have an API login key here that I prepared on the FileMaker side. And then we can select the given layouts that are in this file and do some kind of action here. Find record in this case to identify. And here I specify from the list of fields where the call should put in its query. And here's the only hard-coded thing, that we have find ID by the query that is delivered from initn at this step, and then the rest happens behind the scene with the AI tool calling initn. So just to give you an impression how powerful this is, so there's very little here. There's no scripting involved in the FileMaker side. I can show you. I just tried a few hours before to add a step here to.
Marcel.
Yes.
Sorry, I just want to get a little context here. The MCP endpoints and all of that you're showing, that's all within N8N, right? Those are products of N8N?
We have this on a slide in a few minutes.
Okay, all right.
Then it's easier to understand. Perhaps we jump there first before the other demos. So I skip something here. And now how this works. N8N is a kind, in its foundation, a kind of workflow platform. So if you knew other tools like Node-RED, it's just a Node.js server with some JSON objects that are piped through your workflow definition. And there's some kind of local storage to store the workflow definition and your credentials. So what it takes is there are triggers to click something, there are webhooks to call something by URL, and there are APIs to integrate with other services. Like we saw the email or calendar thing, that is an API call to a different service. And we will see it in a minute how it looks like in the N8N environment. And it's kind of big playground of like Lego bricks, you can stick something together very quickly. And then N8N in this foundation got a second incarnation about a year ago. They introduced these AI agents. This is a LangChain framework that they did very clever inside their UI, so that you don't see all these complicated stuff. You just see a node and you can connect your node to an LLM, to a vector store, or to some kind of tools we just saw in the minute before. And now there is a third incarnation. It is the AI wrapper with MCP protocol. It was introduced lately, just some weeks ago. They introduced two nodes. One is a MCP client, so you can call other services. And one is an MCP server, so that you can make any workflow that is inside your N8N into an MCP endpoint that is visible to an AI outside. And that makes the whole thing interesting, because the platform itself has all these capabilities as a local service or as a remote service. There's no limitation in this. This is kind of Swiss knife where you can do any call in any direction. And this is quite awesome, because it gives us a lot of freedom and a lot of power with simple nodes to orchestrate a whole tool chain of AIs, of API calls to cloud services, of local data, of local connection to FileMaker. Anything is possible. So, and we saw this kind of agent. And what you need to make it happen is you need this integration platform for all these connectors that is attached to them. This is N8N. You need a workflow. We will dive in a minute to see how a workflow is built. Then you have your tools. In our case, one tool was FileMaker, connection to FileMaker data API. Another tool was Google Mail, and another tool was Google Calendar. So we had three tools and the calculator. And then we had an LLM that was Claude, and we had some prompts. The prompts were very simple because we only used some notes here to describe what these tools will do, but you can develop it further. And prompts is the secret sauce inside the new paradigm of development, because you will tell the agent, the AI engine, what to do and what not to do. And finally, you have some kind of interface. be it a data connection to the database or a chat interface to make some sense out of what this agent will do. And to bring it into a kind of overview here, we have our FileMaker and some tools. We build a workflow. We connect this together. It's very similar to what Claris Connect does. We have these connectors and bring it in some kind of sorry, I missed some words. We make a sophisticated workflow on top of it, and we involve an AI model to make it more clever, that we have not be so deterministic to do some things. And then on top of it, we can even attach MCP as a kind of wrapper and attach another AI model with reasoning so that you can do high-level instructions to your agent. And we attached some other tools with connectors. The Google thing was not inside our FileMaker workflow, it was a separate tool that was attached to our platform here. And if you look at it from technical perspective, the end-to-end platform and the agentic workflow and all these connectors live inside a container. In my case, it is a Docker container living on my machine. And the agent is just a kind of definition. It's a definition of how these tools should work together, of which connectors are inside our workflow, and then finally an announcement to the outside with MCP so that other tools can connect to our workflow and do something with it. So there are many loose ends here, but it makes sense to look at it in this, both of this perspective, from technical perspective and from a definition perspective, what our agent is. Because our agent can live anywhere. It can live in the cloud and can live on a local machine. It can live in some workflow. It can integrate many different layers of tools and information here. And this is a powerful thing behind it. So if we connect FileMaker, we have different ways to do it. I will show you two other demos after this. The first one was the MCP, so the order is now in reverse. One possible way to integrate FileMaker is just to use a FileMaker client and call a webhook. It's like we would do it with OpenAI API or something else. You have an API endpoint in URL, and with a script step insert from URL, you can send some data, some JSON data, and get some response back. And the API call will handle anything on this workflow. This is one way to do it. Another way to do it is we integrate the FileMaker node that we saw before. We had this FileMaker node that was connected to a server via data API, and there was this different actions that we can find or create a record, of delete a record or edit a record, and all this is handled via an API call to the FileMaker server. And the trigger would then be perhaps a chat interface from an AI agent. So very different setup, but it depends on your use case when to use which. And the third option is what we just saw. We put MCP in the game, and then Claude can call a special webhook that is called the MCP server, and the MCP server will tell Claude, okay, I have some kind of tools that are defined inside my workflow. This is a tool find customer, a tool find invoice, a tool create invoice, a tool create a calendar event. And all this knowledge goes into Claude before Claude is calling our command and tries to do something useful. And in the back end, on the API side, we have a FileMaker server connected with our database and our customers and invoices. And the magic now happens inside Claude, because Claude identifies from our user input what we like to do. If we put in a picture of a business card and say, okay, make a new customer, then Claude will prepare all this data, call the MCP server with the right tool and push the data inside FileMaker. So there's nothing special inside the FileMaker part of it, but the intelligence comes from Claude as a reasoning model who's able to call tools. And the magic here, when it comes to our FileMaker solution, is that we can wrap up our FileMaker business case into an MCP server and just give it a name and just give it some name of field with some basic hints what to do with it. And then the AI agent is capable of doing something meaningful. And this is without any coding. And this is a really clever concept because the AI already knows how to interpret data, how to call tools, how to choose the right tools. So we don't have to tell it. We only have to provide some basic information as metadata so that the AI agent itself could identify what to do next. And this is a kind of paradigm change that I meant in the beginning, in the history lesson, because when we tried to do such things in FileMaker before, we had to set up every little step in front of it and make every little decision and what could happen and what could go wrong and how the data should be mapped to our fields. And all this is taken away right now because the AI model is intelligent enough to talk to an abstract interface and do the right things for us. And so this is a really powerful instrument. If you think it further, you can just start with your existing business solution, find some possible use cases, and bring a new interface for a chatbot, for Slack channel, for email channel. And if you look on YouTube, you will find a ton of stuff where people make such high-level workflows, and it's really impressive what they do. It's kind of stuff that we as experienced developers could not even imagine that something like that would be possible. There are some people out there, they show demos how a complete team of business people is made up by agents. And the difficult part is to restrict it to a very limited set of actions that it could not go worse and make something that we don't want it to do. So FileMaker MCP, to wrap it up, there's no scripting, no JSON, no API engineering. It's just saying, this is what I have, this is my data, this is my tool sets, and this is what I want. This is what the user puts in, and the model figures out how to solve it. And this is abstracting away the technical pain, and it's just clear and straight language instructions. It's not perfect in any case, but it's amazing how far it is right now, because this is very new concepts that comes up right now, and there's a lot of things happening in the background. The big players in AI are thinking about new protocols to make this more reliable. If you think of it, you can't attach an unlimited number of tools to just one node. There are some reasonable limits to it, but as this technique is evolving, so are coming new ways to define it and to interact with it. And this is a proof of concept that with very little effort and the help of n8n, we can instrument this to make use of it in our FileMaker solutions. And I switch back to n8n for a moment to show you how easy it is to define an agent. When we start at a blank sheet, this is the worksheet in n8n. We can add a trigger here. We can add something to the trigger, a FileMaker. I take my prepared credentials here. I say get records. I prepare a layout and a limit. And I say execute, and boom, we have our data. So very simple. I have a trigger and a node, and inside the node I do some instructions, and the data begins to flow. And if you think it further, the power comes from the sheer number of integrations. You can type in anything you can imagine. There are hundreds of services already prepared. Microsoft, you can use Slack, you can use, you name it, MailChimp, whatever. You can even add WhatsApp as a chat model or Telegram. There are thousands of integration if you even take the community plugins on top of it. But this is out of the box. You type a letter and you see the long list of database services, cloud services, AI services. Everything is just ready to go. And so when we build an agent, it's similar, easy. We need another kind of trigger. We need a chat trigger. So we take this one. Then we add an agent. There's a pre-built node for this. You see it is still red because something is missing. We will need a chat model to make some sense. And now we have a selector here for all these big AI providers. We start with OpenAI. We can choose any model from the list. We can make it with GPT-5, was just provided yesterday. Perhaps we have luck and it's not overcrowded. So, and we are ready to go. That's it. We can open our chat and talk to it. Hi there. So you see there is something working. The agent is calling the model. It comes back with an answer and answers on our chat. Hi there. Hi, how can I help you today? And I can say I am at the FMDiSC meeting in California. So let's look what it answers. Perhaps using GPT-5 was not the best idea because it is a bit lame today because everyone in the world is trying to do something with GPT-5 right now. I stop it and we take another model. We go with 3, 4. It's okay. Save it. Ask again. Should be a bit quicker. That's great. FMDiSC meeting is a great opportunity. And if I ask it again, where am I would expect it to answer. But it says, I'm an artificial intelligence that is here to assist you. You can please provide me more information where you are. So it has no idea. It is because it has no memory. We just gave it a brain. So we give it some memory. We have some advanced database technologies here. We give it a simple memory with a context window of 10 chat messages. And if we do it again, I say, I'm at the FMDiSC meeting in California. Now you see there are 2 items here in our memory. And if I ask it again, where am I? It should now remember, you are at the food marketing, interesting, okay, FMDiSC in California, but it made up some answer upon our earlier input here. And now we can provide it a tool, and tool could be anything. We start simple here with a calculator. So we don't have to give it any parameters here. We can just start. What is some complicated number and another number? And what we would expect now is that the agent is capable to understand that it has a calculator, and it will use the calculator now to give us an answer. So here the tool gets green, so it has gotten a query. We see it here. It has a response, and the model is then giving us the response back in plain English. So you understand the basic principle. We can add even more tools here. We can now take our Gmail tool and we have to use a ready-made account. There are some credentials behind it. So you have to connect with OAuth here, then it will be stored in a local data store in an encrypted way. So you need some IDs and API URLs here to call this. And if it's set up, you can then say, okay, we take our chat input, put it into the message here. We need some address to send it, info@test.com, and then we can execute this. And so, okay, we have no subject. We get an error message, but you see it's very simple. You can add a tool and another tool and another tool, and it's endless what the possibility gives up here. So we stop it here just to understand what an agent is and how simple it is to build such an agent with in a simple workflow. I prepared some other demos. This is an interesting one, because this is not an agent, this is just an agentic workflow. And what it does is, I have a sample file here. This kind of invoices inbox. I use it in my own accounting. What it does is, I can take some PDF invoices. It will be read in this FileMaker file. This file lives locally here, there's no server involved. And if you look at it, there are different kind of invoices from OpenAI, from whatever, Raycast, and every invoice looks different. Every invoice has different information, but it has some information about the invoice number, about the customer, about the vendor, and the amount. And so what I try to do here is to get all this information automatically, that I don't have to type what's in the PDF into my FileMaker solution. So I can call a workflow here, and we will see there is a transfer started here. And now what it does, it calls a webhook inside N8N. It encoded the PDF as base 64, and the workflow returns a JSON with all the fields I would like to have inside my accounting. So it basically reads all these PDFs now and gives us the information right in this way that my accounting solution needs it. And I had this a year ago with ChatGPT. There was an implementation with the Vision API from OpenAI. You can send an image and do some OCR on the image, and then you can send it to a model, and the model will fiddle out how to get the information. But it was a bit cumbersome because I had to convert to an image first. When I had already a PDF, when it's multi-page PDF, I had to split it up and do multiple calls, and it was a bit impractical to use. And finally, I read some news on LinkedIn that Google Gemini 2.0 Flash is capable of reading multi-page PDF. And what I did, I just set up my N8N with a new workflow. Okay, there was a timeout here. I show you what it did. We have the executions here. So we had 3 calls. The first 2 was successful, and the last one got an error, timed out because there was no quick answer. And we look it up. What it does, it gets this is a script that is called it. It converts my PDF file to base 64. I do it with MBS plugin. I think it adds some metadata here if it's to give it the right MIME type. And then finally, there is a request to a webhook. And if we look inside this webhook here, we have a test URL and the production URL. And I just copied this from N8N to put it in here. As the URL that is called, and then there is some curl option here, and finally it inserts from URL and gets some JSON back. And the whole magic is done by a prompt. Here is a prompt, a system prompt inside that does something with the information as text that is guts out of the PDF. And here is summarized this invoice document. You're an expert extraction algorithm, only extract relevant information from the text. Then there are some extra rules how to handle certain situations and certain fields that I need. And what it does then is takes this file. This is a base 64 representation of our file that we are sending from FileMaker. And it put it together with the prompt and an API key to our Gemini Flash model. So there's an endpoint here in the Google Cloud, and we give it the API key. We give it some JSON with our MIME type and our data. And finally, we have an information extractor. And there is the logic that we map back to our JSON that we need in FileMaker. So here's a description that we have a vendor here for that company that sent the invoice. We have a recipient of the invoice. We have a gross amount and so forth. And finally, when this step is ready, we will get some output here. This is what goes in as a text. This was Gemini recognized. And then this was the extractor makes out of this text. We can look up as schema or as a JSON, and that is finally what is sent back to the insert from URL step here inside our FileMaker file. So this has nothing to do with agents. This is just power of LLMs. So we have a model to read the PDF and make text out of it. And we have another model with Google Gemini Chat here to make use of the information extractor to provide us a clean JSON to get all the data that we wanted. And this is handsome. I use it regularly to, I have some more invoices every month to process here. And it's not very fast, but it's suitable enough to use it in my workflow. So this is the part we saw in the overview. And one last demo, I have to look if we have time. Okay, some more minutes. Another interesting part is RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. You might know this because FileMaker itself in the newer versions also has a RAG included. This is a part with the embeddings. So what n8n has, it has access to some specialized embedding vector stores. Pinecone is a highly sophisticated option in the cloud. You have to pay for this. Then there's Qdrant, is an open source. There's also a cloud option, but you can install this local. I can show you here. I have a Docker running, and inside my setup is Qdrant and n8n and some other stuff I need behind the scenes. So it's relatively easy to install and to maintain. And what it does is we can put it some chunks of information and it will store this in the vector database. So I always thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a good documentation of MBS plugin, because MBS plugin is highly sophisticated. There are thousands of different functions, and it's hard to use this website to find the right things. So what I did is I found a dash work doc set. Sorry, I'm in the wrong. This is a block. We go to the doc set. And n8n has a possibility to include, this is a SQLite database, and we can just query this. And we see there are 7,000 and some items, and this is all the functions that are inside MBS plugin. And so I built a workflow to read all these documents. It iterates over all these 7,000 items. It reads the HTML from disk. It deletes away all this navigation that we get just the raw information from the description of the functions, and we generate some UUID and finally put it into the vector store. And the vector store, you need a credential to talk to it. It's a web service in the background, and we have some commands here to insert documents. And then I can select in which of these stores I will save this kind of a table like we know it in FileMaker, and we can even add other options here, but we don't need it. And what it finally did is it created this 7,000 and a bit entries in this MBS function catalog. And if we look into it, it's like this. We have a web interface here to read this. This is the text we provided to the vector store and some metadata. This is the name of the function, that it is a type of function, this is a file, how to use it to look up in the web. And so now I have 7,000 chunks of text, and there are even mechanisms here for the text splitter to chunk this. I can give it a chunk size and overlap. Ian will know what this means. He told us at the other conference how to do this in the right way. And so here you can just click and choose from a menu and make it happen. And the interesting thing is that Kudrant gives us some tool to understand what it did. I can, visualize was the one. I can limit this here to 500 to make it a bit easier to understand. And this is our vector space. This is our multi-dimensional room where all these documents finally are represented. And you see it on the right side when I mouse over a point here, then this is the content that is behind this node. And the interesting thing is if we look up some points that are near together, that are the same group of functions from MBS. So you can see the similarity here in a graphical way. You might have heard of the cosine similarity function and this stuff that is available in FileMaker right now. And here is a counterpart to understand how it all works behind the scenes. So it's quite interesting to learn about this. And I learned a lot in this, just a sample example here to understand all this. And what I finally learned after doing a bit of integration here, I have this chat agent here. We saw this agent module. We have this OpenAI chat model here, a window buffer, just in the, like in the example before. And now we give it 3 tools. For every different vector store, we have another tool, one for the doc sets, one for the user guides, and one for every block. Christian was so nice to give me access to all his data he collected in the last 20 years, so I could feed it into this Kudrant store, and now we can start talking. What is the latest version of MBS? And now we can see it talks to the model, but it did not use any of the vector stores because this is metadata information that is in our system prompt, so it does not have to look up. But if we say, what function do I need to convert XML to JSON, then it will look inside our doc sets. It gets some items back. It makes some sense out of it and will try to provide us here a detailed information. It has even a basic code example here. There's an explanation of all the parameters. And for more detailed information, it provides us a link, so we can click the link and go right to the documentation from the MBS plugin. This is quite powerful because we can ask anything with any meaning without needing to know how the exact function is called. We can ask it how to change the paper tray. No one needs paper anymore in the printer, but we ask it anyway. Paper tray in the printer. And perhaps it looks up something. I cannot find information. Okay, then I had to formulate it another way. This is important that it does not hallucinate and tells anything out from guesswork. And this is because there is a extended rule set here, and that was the real work inside this project to make some good rules, what the AI should do, what it not should do, answer only based on information from the broader document, if a question cannot be answered using clearly state, I cannot find any information. So no one could joke around with our LLM here. No one could ask it to bring up some crazy things. It will just follow our rule sets. And here is the metadata that I told you which version are provided. And then it can look it up from the different sources. So we are running out of time. I'll show one final example to make sense out of this, because we have Claude, and Claude is one of the best models when it comes to coding. So perhaps we can do something with Claude in connection with our RAG system here. I will have some prepared statements here. We can do the same here. We can ask it which is the latest MBS plugin version, and hopefully it will use the tool. We have the MBS code node assistant here. This is kind of MCP server, and we can look at its executions, and we will see here is some call running to the MCP MBS bot. So the latest plugin version is 15.3. Here's the date and some further information. And now we will challenge the model to do some FileMaker work, create a custom FileMaker custom function to make geocoding of a given address and return result as JSON. Make use of MBS functions, keep it short. Just have a look what it does. If we are lucky, it will not hallucinate anything, but okay. This is just what I not wanted. It didn't use a tool. It made up something out of its own knowledge. Perhaps it will work because Claude is very clever meanwhile to know a lot about FileMaker coding, and it knows even a lot about MBS. But it turns out sometimes it just hallucinates and does not use the correct spelling or the correct functions, or to make up some functions that does not exist. So we should tell him to use the MBS assistant to create the function. So let's have another try. Okay, now it calls the code assistant. We will see it running here on the left side. So it does a query here, create FileMaker custom function geocoding with JSON, and perhaps it gets something back. So it's making a new artifact here, and now it gives us a function, and we can just copy and paste this. I did experiment a lot. You can even create scripts with FileMaker, but you will miss out a functionality to put the script back into the FileMaker script editor because there is no clear text option right now. Perhaps Claris will evolve this further. There were some announcements that something might be coming, but in the meantime, it's a good option to reduce this to custom functions, because a custom function you can just grab, copy, paste, and use it. And as we are running out of time, I just show you some examples I have prepared some hours before. This is our example right now. I'm sorry for the German menus here. This is custom functions, and we have geocoded address here. This is just copy paste. This is a one-shot example that Claude gave me with the knowledge of the MBS reg in the background, and it gave me this function, and I tried it, and it did the right thing. I take this out here. I call the first function. It's just plain JSON. Then I said, okay, it would be nice to have it as XML. And then it gave me another function, and you can try it here. Just let it run in the background as we look into the result. Extends the custom function to return the result as XML. And then Claude looked up for geocoding in XML and recognize, oh, there is no geocoding XML function in MBS. I have to do something else. And Claude was clever enough then to do a conversion step behind the JSON and extend the script even so far that you can switch between JSON or XML, and you can provide another parameter here for format. So this is really clever because Claude figured out something that even was not in the documentation. So if we try this, there's the second one, geocode version 2, and it will provide either XML or JSON. And it's just with the selector here. So it's just a proof of concept to illustrate that this works. And if it comes back now, what will it bring to us? It is a simple kind of possibility to provide specific FileMaker, or in this case MBS plugin for FileMaker information to make Claude even more powerful, because Claude does not know anything about a sophisticated FileMaker, because there are no good resources about this. Claude could read some websites, but it could not dig into the FileMaker solutions itself, because there are no public available script examples. Somehow Claude knows something, and if we attach additional information, it gets better and better and could make really good functions and really good scripting. And if we think this further, we have this missing link here that there is no API to remote control the FileMaker development, but we have the XML patch tool and some other approaches in the community. And perhaps we will get some workflow ready to extend this further. And I just recently discovered that there is a public repo. It's called Context 7. Context 7 is a kind of MCP service that collects any information about any tool chain, about any program language, any framework, any specialized tool that no one else knows. And so we as a community could provide markdown formatted information about FileMaker and any thing out of the FileMaker space to make Context 7 to give it the knowledge so that any LLM could look up this information by MCP and supply it in our development chain. And perhaps if we are lucky and there are some kind of APIs to control FileMaker from the scripting side, from the UI, that you can do UI objects or something. We just heard that there will be a presentation at the other FileMaker meeting in a few days. So that's exciting stuff, because if you think this further, we can end up to have a fully integrated FileMaker IDE that is powered by the intelligence of some tool like Cursor or Claude or whatever is in the AI space available at this point. This is a bit of the view of the future, but we're going in this direction. And so it's exciting times to keep track on all of this. The key takeaway now is AI is a crazy beast. It's not quite predictable what it does. You have to do a lot of refining and to make good prompting and all this. But N8N Toolbox enables you to harness all this power behind it, because you don't have to do the heavy lifting with the API calls, with all this coding and JSON formatting. N8N will totally take it away from you, and you can get on top of it to master the next level. And N8N as a toolbox is a good starting point to learn about AI development concepts. And with MCP, you have even this easy abstraction to put some ready solutions, perhaps your ready-made FileMaker solution that you use for 20 years, and you could put an MCP endpoint on top of it with the help of N8N and provide it to the intelligence of all these AI agents. And this is a really interesting approach, because it did not involve heavy coding, but you can just plug and play and start use it. And so the evolution of the toolchain is that new architectures extend the classic software development. I think personally it will not replace it, but it will extend it in some new and special ways. So solutions can be built on different abstraction layers, and you can integrate your existing solutions. The question is, will we need fancy UI stuff in the coming years, or will there be new approaches to do this with speech, with some kind of glasses where the model will see what you see? But it's a mixture of models, of protocols, of valuable content, of highly sophisticated prompts. There are even prompt libraries and services for prompt libraries evolving right now. If you heard of Manus, it's a Chinese AI provider. They do a lot of good prompt templates. And finally, it's this kind of wrappers that you can interact in all these different directions and make an own definition what your AI agent will do. So to get you started, I compiled you a list with the basic resources of n8n. There's even a self-hosted AI starter kit. You can download this from my blog. There's a ton of stuff on YouTube and LinkedIn. The slides of my previous presentation are available for download with even more information than it was shown today. And I have a recording of the Vienna calling presentation in preparation. Perhaps it will be available soon on YouTube. So then you have the other part with the basic building blocks of n8n to understand a bit more. Because today was a bit quick, we had not that much time to go in every detail, but just let's discuss, use this kind of discussions in the FileMaker meetings to exchange our ideas, our experiences, to show up new tools. And I think it's a very exciting time to live in and as a developer. And we should not be afraid of being replaced by AI agents, but use them to do even more crazy stuff than we are used to do. So thank you so much for having me today and for being here. I hope I could have showed you some interesting ways what is possible right now with MCP in the space of FileMaker. And if you have ambitions to dive deeper into n8n, I can say it's worth it. And it's a very low barrier to get into it. So thanks a lot. And if we have some time left, we can use it for Q&A.
Thank you very much, Marcel. That was really fascinating and very powerful tools. I think no one would argue with that. Just to add on to what Marcel was just saying, also the recording of this entire FMDiSC meeting will be up in a few days on our YouTube channel. So you can go back and analyze some of that if you want to and play with some of these tools. Does anyone have any questions for Marcel?
Don't be shy, just ask.
You probably said this, but what are you running it on? Like what type of computer are you running everything on?
This is my M1 MacBook Pro. I just transferred it to a M4 to be a bit quicker and with speech interaction, but I didn't made it for today. But it's running on a quite old machine, 3 or 4 years old. And I run it inside Docker. I learned this in a YouTube video in 20 minutes, how to set up Docker. I never used it before so much, so even this was new for me, but it was very easy steps to get into all this n8n stuff.
Have you experimented with adding any GPUs through the PCI bus?
Not yet. On my new MacBook Pro, I have Ollama installed. I haven't used it so much because I'm just busy transferring all my projects from one computer to the other and set up everything from scratch. But this is an option, and I think it's for some use cases interesting to have a local model. And we heard before in the announcement that these OSS models from ChatGPT were announced last week, and could be interesting if you have enough CPU power to set up something. And what I did, there's a service called DigitalOcean. They host on AWS in any region in the world. And so I made up a Docker image in the cloud so that I have the flexibility to switch and have some callback endpoints.
Wow, fascinating stuff. Thank you.
There are even providers to let you set up the open source version. There's in Europe we have this. Oh, I miss the name right now, but it's in the compiled list. Just download. I provide you the link in the chat here. There is a whole list of services that integrates n8n ready to start, or you can just start with an example account at n8n itself.
Tim Owen here. I have what's more of a philosophical question, I guess you'd call it. I mean, a lot of the technical aspects of it are fascinating to me, but we're way above my current pay scale at the age of 79. A lot of the demonstrations you showed were how a developer might use this. You also use that example of how an invoice could be generated and sent, and sometimes a contact created automatically. I'm looking back at, old FP5 days when a good FileMaker solution was completely locked down. So you only let the user do exactly what you had planned on and attended it. And we've come a long way since then at giving the user more and more power. But there's a point at which I'm a bit suspicious of giving the user too much power because they will misuse it. And I wonder if anyone has any sort of philosophical type comments about that aspect of, are you giving the user too much power, letting them do too much that may be out of your control and maybe going against the user's intentions and your own intentions as a developer, keeping people on the path to data righteousness.
Yes, of course. It's a very fair point to look at security and the implications. And the demo today was for developers. It was not for production. I would not use such things in production. I will lock it down, like you said. That will mean some efforts, and there are tools inside, and even n8n and all these MCP protocols. They are evolving right now. They will be more sophisticated in some time to allow to integrate this security layer right inside the protocol that it's not possible right now. So you have to lock it down your own way to provide good prompts, to provide good rules inside your prompts, to perhaps double check. You can use another agent to double check the input or output from the first agent. There are a lot of options, and so this is a learning that is taking place right now because we grew up in the old world. We knew the old type of coding and the old architectures, and this is something completely new. And so we have to learn, we have to relearn, we have to adapt. And I wouldn't say any solution should be converted to this new kind of model, but there are some use cases where it will take a lot of pain out of our traditional approaches and allow something new. And so this is a kind of balance to find the sweet spot where it is worth it to invest into this new kind of integration. And on the other side, there are good reasons for some old style solutions to keep them like they are. And so we have to learn a lot here and in this place. And so to finish this with a good point is n8n, for me, I discovered it by chance, is a good playground to learn. It is not in so much theory, and it is even not so hard to code and so hard to learn. You can get in very low barrier and make your explorations, and then you can experience by yourself what is possible and what it's better not approachable. So it's kind of game now. And
I completely agree that it's a whole brave new world, and there's nothing that excites developers in FileMaker, any developers in other technologies that excite them more than playing around and finding new and interesting stuff. But I guess my point goes back to, in the process of making it easier, on one hand, then it makes it harder to add a sort of a control or security level, whatever you want to call it, on the other side, because that's that's as much our responsibility as developers as making it easy for people to do something as to control it within certain limits, to keep people on a leash without their knowing that they're on one, so to speak.
Yeah, I think Tim, you raised a really good point because people will, I know that over 25 years of doing this, that people will come up with interesting ways to break things and try to go beyond what you've given them, assuming that there's functionality there that isn't. And so, the question is, can you properly define the parameters for your AI to be truthful in every circumstance? What if they ask for a piece of information that doesn't exist at all? Is it really going to tell them that information doesn't exist, or is it going to try to accommodate them with something that's, a hallucination? And maybe you've thought of all the ones that are reasonable. Maybe they've thought of some that are unreasonable to ask for. And, so yeah, I think that's where a lot of the art of using AI exists, is in defining the parameters properly, putting the right restrictions on it, and then still getting answers that are coherent.
Of course, Bob, but the real danger is not the AI. The AI is unpredictable. We will learn how to do it, but the real danger is that we are out of the business soon because other people go into the space and use these tools without asking, without doing all this security stuff, without making up sophisticated strategies. They just do it because they now have these easy tools and they develop something, and that are no developers, that are marketing people, that are any people, kind of people that run their own business, and they get these tools inside their hands and they do crazy things. And if you see it, if you look in YouTube, I was amazed what I saw, what I thought was never possible, but this is a hype cycle now. And so it will take some time to sort out what is hype and what is really practical and useful for production. We know what is useful for production, but the guys outside there that are in the hype cycle and they do anything with it, they don't spend any thought about this. And so this is a real danger because our customers get into this trap of believing all these new guys coming into this AI space and promising everything. And the question is, how much can they deliver, and how quick can we adopt to the new tools to be in the game any longer? So I think we as the veterans, we have a good overview, but we have the danger of being left out because the new guys are no developer guys that comes with these new solutions. And so we have to have an eye on this and understand what's happening.
Yes, agreed. Okay, well, we're way over time, which is fine. I think this is a fascinating topic and deserved a little extra time. Thank you to all of our presenters today, Marcel, Phil, who I think had to leave us a little early, and of course Chris Moyer with his excellent Tech News Roundup. The next meeting is on September 12th, and we will see you all then.
Okay, see you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Talk to you next week.